Right guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and Crimsix is at it again. He's been on a mad one on the timeline these last couple of days. Sorry my voice is a bit dodgy today, but what can you do? We power through regardless. And well, a lot to talk about today in regards to the skill gap, but certainly with Crimsix's discussion on the skill gap gets pretty interesting when you look at the CDL standings so far this season. And tweeting your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Everybody else on the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this from Josiah Slacksberry. I miss Uplink, best competitive CoD mode ever. Interesting statement, to be honest. I think a lot of people, myself included, probably would say Hardpoint, but Uplink was fantastic during the jetpack era. If you guys are newer to Call of Duty, to competitive Call of Duty especially, you made a lot of experienced Hardpoint. Well, Hardpoint obviously was fantastic in every single game that it's been in, I think, since way back in Black Ops 2 when it was first introduced. But Uplink, when you had like the satellite, or I think like the casters had to call it the satellite, but technically it was just the ball, right? You have to throw in the portal. They tried to bring it back in World War II when it went to boot on the ground, because of course the idea was you can throw it into the portal and get 1 point. You can jump it through the portal and get 2 points, like you can dunk it. Now, of course, boot on the ground doesn't really work quite as well when you can't jump up to the portal. So they tried it in a game mode, I think it was called Gridiron, way back at the start of World War II, when there was a portal on the ground instead. But it didn't really work out. Like the pros didn't like it. They decided to play CTF instead that year and just have 2 hardpoints, 2 searches, and a CTF instead. Now, we didn't have, like back in the day, like Uplink used to be played game 3, and there was sometimes a CTF game 4. So there could have been a way to make it work, possibly. Black Ops 3 Advanced Warfare times, I think it was absolutely phenomenal. There were some great moments in Infinite Warfare as well, no doubt about it. I'd love to see it come back. I wonder how it could work for boots on the ground, though, because you probably have to like have some sort of ramp or something that you can run up to get it dunked in. I'm not really sure how it would work, but yeah, I think a lot of people are with Slacks and saying that Uplink maybe should make its glorious return to Call of Duty at some point or another. So Crimsix has been on fire as of late. You guys might remember that Clayson talked not too long ago about these like OpTic shooters cutting his wire or whatever, and as well, Crim says now, yo, my bad about digging a 6-foot hole and cutting your fiber line, and of course Clayster in the reply. So definitely some entertaining stuff Crimsix has been coming out with as of late, and Parasite tweets this out, Crim on Twitter versus Crimsix IRL, and some other tweets that he has in reply to Parasite right here. So this is what Crim has to say yesterday. It is absurd to me how easy these CODs are becoming. The Cold War aim assist has been taken straight out of Thumb's nightmares, and in Warzone, not a single long distance gun recoils to appropriate levels. They balance it by slowing ADS, but that just makes gameplay even worse. Very interesting from Crimsix. Of course, like part of this he's talking about Warzone, but in general I think the point stands. We've seen these past several years that for whatever reason, the developers like to seem to make Call of Duty easier and easier every single year. We see the guns right now, as he says, the aim assist is very, very strong indeed. You've got, I mean, the Krug just does not recoil at all, right? It's a complete laser beam. And since like Black Ops 4 time, and even in Black Ops 4, we'll look at what Parasite has to say here in a second on some of the weapons that have been harder to use throughout Call of Duty history. But back in the day, the recoil was hard to control, strafing with the weapons and getting that to work was very difficult. For example, in Black Ops 2, let's say standoff, right? This is one of the reasons why the pros don't want to play standoff or hardpoint in this game, is because let's say you're trying to cross over towards the crates to get into the bottom of that like fish building, I think people call it, over towards like the 4th hardpoint, if you guys know that one. You're trying to cross over the street there. The Crick can just beam you without any issue at all. The aim assist is very strong. It's an absolute laser beam. Back in the day, if someone jumps across and like dolphin dives across or whatever, it's really difficult to kill them. The aim assist wasn't so strong, or the M8 or something like that. It was difficult to get that kill every single time. In this game, it's not a problem at all. And there's Crim saying, look, the CODs are just becoming way too easy, whether it's to cater to the casual player, whether it's to cater to whatever. It's somewhat tough to say. But as Crim says right here, YouTube, you know, Battlefield 3, AEK 79 or 971, sorry, the best gun of that game, also had the highest skill gap for controlling the recoil. Nowadays, there's barely anything you have to do to control the recoil. The 74 UAK needs a little bit of putting down right, like the PPSH did way back in World War II. But the ARs are incredibly easy to use, and it seems like at times the ARs that actually have a little bit of complicated recoil, the pros will gentleman's agreement out of the game, because in addition to their complicated recoil or whatever, let's say the XM4 is a bit random, to be honest. It kind of went all in circles, and partly as a result, I imagine, of having high recoil, it was also a very strong weapon. So therefore it gets GA'd by the pros after that first stage, you guys might indeed remember. So as he says, like time to kill was the fastest, but by far the hardest to actually hit shots with, as it should be in every single FPS ever made, will be ever made. Now, of course, like he's talking about the skill gap in a way that some of these weapons are just so easy to use, and skill gap is a topic of discussion that comes up every single year in Call of Duty, no doubt about it. But it is interesting, especially this season, to look at, well, the skill gap discussion. I mean, obviously it holds some weight with what Crimsix is saying, the fact that the weapons are easy to use, and that's the direction that they're moving in, especially for public matches, and it seems like I'm just catering to more casual players in that sense, I suppose, not making it too easy. But at the end of the day, what difference does it really make between the top tier and the lower tier of professional play? Maybe not so much, but still, FaZe, you know, they shoot very straight, they shoot straighter than the other teams, they play as a team better than other other teams, they've been dominating the league, right? So the skill gap discussion holds some water, but maybe not too much when you look at the standings over the course of it. And well, this is what Parasite has to say earlier this year, as he says, weapons in CoD don't actually take much skill to use nowadays, especially at a pro level and a fair playing field. Only guns I can think of that took actual skill to shoot were the Maddox for the recoil control in Black Ops 4, the Sorg for strafe in that game as well, the Black Ops 2 M8 as I talked about, the VMP Black Ops 3 strafe, and the recoil control as well. So those are some weapons, but as of late, these last couple of years, it's just been so easy to use all the weapons, and he does mention the Maddox, of course, but at the same time, in that game, there was the ICR with grip 2, right, which would shoot absolute laser beams and not recoil at one single bit. So really interesting stuff. I mean, Parasite's had some discussion as well these last several months about the balancing within the game, right, has had some discussion right here with Slasher going back and forth on some of these issues, and well, as he says right here, the Krieg, for example, is a really good long range and usable at mid-range. The skill behind the weapon comes from hitting 2 headshots in a gunfight and not missing because your time to kill suffers. So saying that, like, Crimsix, yes, the gun does shoot very straight and there's lots of aim assist and no recoil, but actually, because there's no flinch in this game, you can actually just aim for the head and try and get those headshot kills, and that will take down your time to kill by a little bit, right? And maybe that does add some skill gap to the use of the game that we haven't really seen in previous Call of Duty. So interesting to keep an eye on, no doubt about it. This I thought was a kind of interesting, kind of spicy actually. I remember from back in the day between Slasher and Parasite, we kind of looked at some discussion between them yesterday, but just saying, your bias on this subject, I disagree. I think sound cues are important, but not as much as some. How am I biased at all on this subject? You've always been adamant about making every movement and everything silent in the game, and that's another thing, right? Like, in this game, every time you jump on anything, you make a load of noise, and that's kind of annoying, right? And if anything, that benefits the more casual player that can just kind of sit there behind a corner, and if anyone tries to make a move on him, then he can actually, hear him very easily. Now, I think that's been just a trend these last several years of developers going down this route of making the guns easier to use, making it easier for newer players to get sound cues or whatever to help them out in these types of situations. But maybe far from the best thing for professional play as well, Crimsix has gone on to discuss. Wanted to mention this as well that Crone comes out with. So we talked about a World Cup a couple of days ago, and Crone actually tries to put this thing together. So really cool to see. I'll go through this in just a second for you guys. First of all, he makes it relatively clear. Team USA, aka FaZe, as we looked at yesterday, had to be nerfed. So I made a rule that only 2 CDL teammates can start together. I also split the team into East and West for the US, but gave Dallas, Minnesota to the West to try and balance things a little bit. Team Mexico is a massive reach, but they're all part of Mexican at minimum. I think Parasite even says in reply as well that he's part Mexican as well, so maybe he could have been on this squad. But this is what Crone comes out with. I thought this is very cool, to be honest. You've got Simp, aBeZy, Awakening, and Claystar. You can't have Cellium and RCs on this team as well, given the the rules that he's got in place. Scump here as well on the bench if required. USA West, Shotzzy, Standy, Kenny, and Octane. I think kind of funny that I think Parasite says in reply the fact that Slasher is actually the only one originally from the west coast of the USA out of this team. But you've got to make some roundabout actions right here. Canada, the player I forgot yesterday to talk about was Gunless, of course. Some other great players up here also. And then you've got the England team. Actually, it's kind of nice, right? You can have an England team, you can have a Scotland team. I think it'd be tough to put a Welsh team together. Maybe you can get Dave on there, get Rated on their back. I think maybe you could put something together. But I think the England team could do pretty solid here. You've got the Australia team, of course, Scottish team, bring back Marky B. Quicker, of course, is there if required on the bench as well. And the French team as well if needed. So really interesting stuff. I didn't realise actually that Attach's mother is half Mexican. So that's why he gets his opportunity on the Mexico team if this was to happen. And Japan throw them into the mix as well. You got a Spanish team in the mix. I think there could be a possibility for something pretty fun to happen here. But look, at the end of the day, it's gonna be tough to look past some of these USA teams, right? And but still, it could be kind of interesting. We saw a lot of times back in the day there would be amateur teams that would come up and face the top dogs and not necessarily have the best result. But there's always going to be some upsets in there. And this is a kind of a nice idea, I think, in theory. Maybe it can happen through the off-season or something if the CDL wanted to go down this route, just kind of like a one-off event. But of course, they like doing their all-star weekends and stuff like this. But something to consider maybe going forwards. I thought this is kind of funny from Accuracy. Me and Asim looking for 2 for Team Afghanistan, which is still remains to be seen if that one will make it onto the list going forward as well. Wanted to finish off with a video with some nice lineman cards. These come out a few days ago. Firstly, this one from the Mutineers, as you can see right here. I mean, it's Neptune with a phenomenal. I mean, he only has an overall 87, but look at these stats: 1.21, 1.31 in Surge, 1.12 in Control. Outrageous stuff. Kills per 10 minutes is ridiculous for Skies in the hardpoint side of things, but still certainly a lot of room for improvement for the Mutineers. I think in theory they really have a great shot. I think this time because they're in a group which is certainly doable over at that Group B side of things. I'm pretty sure, and if they can manage to make it to winners, last time arguably they probably should have made winners, right? They had such a great shot to do so. They fell short in the ends, and just started in the losers bracket for the major, and they can't make the run, right? They lose to the subliners in the end. Speaking of subliners, this is the team that beat them. Asim right here, despite not playing the major for them, unfortunately, has 93 overall. Like this guy, absolutely killing it when he comes back into this team, especially given he is not at a ping disadvantage anymore, playing playing in Texas with the rest of the team should be a great step up for Asim and the subliners coming into this stage. Scary team, no doubt about it. Rokkr, I think, are a very interesting team because they bring MajorManiak in for accuracy, but you've got to say, like, Standy's still been their shining star on accuracy. Has he performed too much worse than what MajorManiak's put up right here? You could argue certainly not, and Minnesota, they come top 4 at this, or top 6, sorry, at this major once again. This is the OpTic guys, then they, of course, place 4th. And statistically, I was very impressed with Envoy right here, who's kind of had a bounce back stage for him individually, but still, tough for the OpTic guys to get over the line in the end when the league is as competitive as it is. But one more stage in the World Championship for them to get a victory under their belt. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really upset the YouTube because I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and have grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you much as always, take care, and I will see you next time.